Yes, hello, welcome back to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. For this week, we are heading into round 7 of the Telstra Premiership of the NRL season. It is about 6:30 in the morning here. I am filming this before I head off to work. It is currently 6 degrees in the Centre of Excellence, which blows my mind considering that some episodes I filmed in here over the summer, it was about 39 degrees in this Centre of Excellence. So I'm really rugging up this morning. It is absolutely freezing, but we'll get on with it, eh? It's heading into that time of the year, which I absolutely love, to be honest. I prefer winter than summer for some reason. I love rugging up and getting close to a fire and having some marshmallows and whatnot. Summer, I just get a bit over the heat after a couple of months. Maybe I'm just turning into a wuss. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to do the Rugby League review show for now, and this is round 6 review. The Thursday night game on Thursday, the 9th of April, was between the Penrith Panthers and the Bulldogs. Now, my prediction was Penrith were going to win this and win this big, which, to be fair, I think the majority of the Rugby League community would have agreed with me as well. You've got to give credit to the Bulldogs, but more importantly, I actually think you've got to give credit to Cameron Ciraldo. I think this is the best coaching performance he's had since he took over the Bulldogs. I think it was 2023. They had a really ordinary season that year, and then 2024 they started making finals. Last year they were quite impressive, until the back end of the year. But what were they paying? About $5.85 in this game. They proved everyone wrong, and I think even their supporters had faith, but they probably didn't expect them to win this game. I think it was an outstanding performance by Canterbury. And if I look back since the 2004 grand final, if you go back through some of their best games, I'd put this in the top 5. Lachlan Galvin, for me, that was his best performance of his career. His combination with Jacob Preston is actually quite dangerous for opposition sides. It's not as simple as just a short ball to Preston. It's so much more than that. I think you'll start seeing Lachlan Galvin pass, inside balls to Jacob Preston. They will connect in ways that we will not predict, I believe. I believe they have a pretty special combination between a half and a second rower. A bit like Thurston and Gavin Cooper. Maybe, we might see the combination of Cliffy and Beaver return between these two. I doubt it, though. You can't get better than that. But in saying that, I think it was a tremendous performance by the Canterbury Bulldogs. I thought the kicking game was fantastic. I thought Anari Tuala, to be honest, I thought his defence was a little bit poor in this game. But in saying that, I just thought they weren't going to be bullied. The way they played the game, they played it like it was a grand final. But they also played it with a relaxed vibe, like that they weren't expected to win. They went into the game with nothing to lose. But for me, Galvin that was incredible what he did. And he actually, what you noticed in this game was Nathan Cleary got caught on the last tackle about 4 times. I think it was 4 times he got caught on the last tackle. So you've got to give credit to the defense of Canterbury, their line speed, their aggression, their determination to get the job done. They won that game based on their defense. And as we all know, last year they were the best defensive side in the competition. They have been known to struggle to score points over the last 6-7 weeks, but also, in the final quarter of season 2025, they really didn't score as many points as they did in the opening 14-15 rounds of the competition. But Canterbury, congratulations to them. Penrith, they aren't AI. I realise they actually are a team full of humans, and they can actually lose a game. I just want to give a shout out to Nathan Cleary. What he does after the game, he's such a good person to have in rugby league. The way in which he communicates with Bulldog supporters, walks around the field and really engages. That's what rugby league is all about, and he just knows that, and he has that in spades. He's absolutely fantastic for the game. As good as a player he is, I think he's honestly, the way he engages and gets involved in the community, I genuinely think that he is, just as good as a person than he is as a player. Congratulations to the Canterbury Bulldogs. They ended up winning that game 32 points to 16. The first game of Friday night football was between the Manly Sea Eagles and the St. George Illawarra Dragons. To be honest, I know a lot has been spoken about the Dragons, but I thought their performance in this was probably their second best performance of the year. We look back at round one against Canterbury in Vegas. That Dragons side just looked completely different. It looked fantastic. Like the kicking game from Daniel Atkinson. I remember doing a review show about 6 weeks ago talking about how good Daniel Atkinson's kicking game was. And it was absolutely fantastic. Since then, the kicking game from both Atkinson and Kyle Flanagan has been really disappointing. And it's a real shame to see. And, you know, in this game, you look at Jamal Fogarty, his kicking game compared to the halves, both Atkinson and Kyle Flanagan, they just couldn't find the ground with their kicks. Like every time it would go either straight down the throat of Lehigh Hopewadi, Tom Trbojevic, or Jason Saab. Manly ended up winning this game 28 points to 28 to 18. But, you know, they had a lead of 16-0, and then the Dragons came back and took the lead. So that is still a concern with Manly. You know, they're a little bit like the Canberra Raiders in terms of they can have a big lead and give it up. And look, to be fair, 16-0, 18-0, even 20 points really isn't a huge margin these days in rugby league. You know, you look back at the 2010s, and if you're winning 16-0 at halftime, the game's done. Like the game's over. Very rarely would you see a comeback back in the way in which the game was played back then. It was a lot slower, but since the 6 again rule has come in, fatigue sets in very quickly, momentum shifts quickly, and that's exactly what happened in this game. Manly couldn't defend their errors, and the Dragons were too good for Manly for probably about 35 minutes of this game. Manly, it shows the character of the side that Kieran Foran has brought in. They really are playing for their coach. And, you know, I kind of get what Gus Gould was saying a couple of weeks ago. He said, that's rubbish. Every team should be playing for their coach. But at the end of the day, they're all human. And they may not have that connection or relationship with their coach than they do with a player that they used to play with and a legend of the club that's won a premiership with the club, who's also gone through a lot of hard times mentally, which perhaps a lot of players can relate to behind the scenes. For me personally, I think Manly showed a lot of character to say, hey, no, fuck that. We're going to win this game. A lot of times Manly will be up 14-0, 16-0, and then the opposition chases down the lead and win the game, and Manly panic and they don't know how to come back. I thought Jamal Fogarty really got Manly out of trouble in this game. And personally for me, I thought Luke Brooks had one of his best games in Manly colours. I want to give a shout out to Simeone Leifai, the young front rower for Manly. He was outstanding. Kobe Hetherington, for me, has been Manly's best player in the opening 6 weeks of this competition. He has been absolutely fantastic. What a buy he has been for the Manly Sea Eagles. And Brandon Wakeham, too. When he was named in the 9 jersey 3 weeks ago, I thought, he's traditionally a halfback. I don't know what they're thinking there. But his service from dummy half has actually been really good. You know, he works well with the quick play of the balls. He doesn't necessarily have much speed off the mark, but at the end of the day, he was outstanding in this game. I thought he was really impressive. You know, he's not going to be the superstar of the side, but his service from dummy half with the quick play of the balls, he's always there. He gives early ball to his halves or front rowers or whoever needs the ball from that quick play of the ball. Brandon Wakeham is always there delivering a beautiful pass that needs to be thrown. I mean, you look at other players in the competition. Brandon Smith, is he a dummy half? Is he a lock? Who knows? But for me, his service from dummy half isn't the best. But Brandon Wakeham, you know, he probably doesn't offer as much as Brandon Smith does in rugby league, but his service from dummy half, it's just those little things watching rugby league that a lot of people will pick up that, you know, look, he's not going to be a long-term 9. In fact, I don't think he'll be the 9 for the rest of the year, to be honest. But what he's doing at the moment is complementing his forwards, complementing the players around him, and defensively he's been strong, especially in that first 25, 30 minutes of the halves. He's been really, really impressive. So congratulations to the Manly Sea Eagles winning 2 in a row. Can you believe it? You know, 2 weeks ago I sat here thinking, look, you know, things aren't looking good at Manly at the moment. we're sitting 1 point away from the top 8. So things can change very quickly in rugby league, especially so early in the season. You certainly don't win comps in March or April. And I don't think Manly will win the comp this year. But in saying that, I think, if they beat the Cowboys this week, then they've got a very injured Parramatta side round 8. That's they could be in the top 4. Like I'm not joking. If they beat the Cowboys and then Cowboys with no Reed Marnie, I didn't realise that until I was on the phone to my mate Nathan yesterday, and he was saying no, there's no Reed Marnie, and I went, oh, hang on, okay, that changes things for me personally. At the end of the day, it was a great win by Manly. The Dragons, on the other hand, look, I'm not going to beat them up like a lot of other people do, and well deservedly, I guess, but it's a shit show there. I think it's going to take a long time to get out of this. Hey, like I'm just looking at this going, fuck, this is like the Northern Eagles days. It could take a few years to actually. I mean, apparently it's reported that Clint Gutherson is on $900,000. Look, for me personally, do what you can to get Scott Drinkwater to the club. Move Gutherson to 5'8", and maybe Atkinson at halfback and Flanagan back to a 14. He can cover hooker. Well, no, he can't really because he got Jacob Little there. How good was Jacob Little in this game too? I mean, the momentum really shifted when Jacob Little came on. They were down 16-0 and Jacob Little comes on. All of a sudden, they score 3 tries. Absolutely incredible there from the St. George Illawarra Dragons to fight back. But at the end of the day, they weren't good enough. I just don't think they've got the players. That's just my personal opinion. Let's get to the second game, Friday night football. This was between the Broncos and Cowboys. That's right. Man, this young half, Tom Duffy, he actually started. He played the first 2 games, first 3 games actually of season 2025 for the Cowboys in the 7 jersey. Tom Didden was at 6, and Tom Duffy really struggled, and the Cowboys really struggled. Their forwards weren't aiming up for a young half. I personally believe Tom Duffy, that was his best game of his short so far career. I thought he was really good. He looks really fast, Tom Duffy. Watching him play, he actually reminded me of Mitchell Moses, where, Moses isn't your traditional halfback. For me, Moses is a tall sort of, halfbacks are traditionally a bit Adam Reynolds or Matty Orford, sort of short, stocky. For me, Moses is tall. He'd be at least 6 foot, but he's so fast. He runs like a fullback. And Tom Duffy's got a lot of speed. If he can get around a player, and attract the players around him in terms of, getting it into short sides and creating those, 2-on-1 or 3-on-2 opportunities, I think absolutely Tom Duffy is one of the best young halves coming through. Like, I didn't realise how good he was. For me, even that field goal, right? They didn't win the game, but with 5 minutes to go, he slotted a field goal. And that's a big moment for a young half to do, to say, no, I'm going to cement this play. I'm going to get the point here. Even though they lost, you've got to give credit to the way in which he directed this side around. And, they had no Adam Reynolds, no Reece Walsh, and Patrick Carrigan now is suspended. He was sin-binned in this game. He's suspended now for a couple of weeks. For me, Brisbane did a pretty good job considering the players they had out. I did expect them to still win this game, though. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they are the premiers, right? They lost a World Club Challenge, but then they've won 3, lost 3. Prior to this game, they won 3 in a row. Good on them. But I did think they probably just had enough cattle to win this game. Like, I understand the hooker situation there isn't great, but like Mozart getting injured, like Jason Taumalolo for me in this game was unbelievable. Like, he's showing form when he won the Dally M back in 2016. He is saying, you know what? Everyone's writing me off. Everyone thinks I'm about to finish my career. Fuck it. I think he's only 31, 32 years of age. If he wanted to play in the NRL, he could play for another 3, 4, 5 years if he shows this form. I thought his body was gone, to be completely honest with you. Watching him a lot last year, even though he played a bit better football last year than he did the previous few years, I thought he just showed a lot of a lot of character and a lot of fight. There's been a lot of reports that he hasn't had the best relationship with Todd Payton, but to me, it seems like whatever's happened there has been mended. The way he's playing, he looks like he's playing for his coach. And he's playing with a point to prove, and I love that for the Cowboys. I had the Cowboys making the top 8. That was my bold prediction at the start of the year. Um, and I'm going to stick by it, right? But yeah, early on I had a lot of doubts. I'm going to stick by it, but it's a long way to go, guys. Too. Hey, we've had 6 weeks of rugby league. In 21 weeks from now, we're still in the regular season, so we need to. It's great to see sides like, the Cowboys doing well. Newcastle have started the season well. The Tigers have started the season well. But at the end of the day, it is a really long season. I'll get to the Tigers and how proud I am and how happy I am to see the Tigers doing so well. It's so good for rugby league. I'll get to them for the final game of the round. But, at the end of the day, it's round 6. And I reckon by the time, close to Origin, round 11, round 12, we'll start to see really those, premiership contenders start to come in. If you had to pick who's going to win the comp now, you'd say Penrith, but there's no doubt by halfway through the season, back into the season, I think it could be a bit like 2023 where you sort of had 2 standouts. You really did have a gut feeling and know it was going to be Brisbane and Penrith in that grand final come the back end of the year. For me personally, congratulations to the Cowboys. Scott Drinkwater getting that field goal and then the try on the left edge. Man, that Hillam Lukey, what a game he has had. What a first 6 weeks he has had. And one of my bold predictions as well was I've sounded like Gus Gild here, going, but I also predicted this. I don't necessarily go through all the bad predictions, but anyway, that's what Gus does. Fuck, am I turning into Phil Gould? No, I do mention my bad predictions here, I think. And Hillam Lukey, man, I said I think he'll play Origin this year. If he stays injury free, I think he'll play Origin. I put him straight in my fantasy team. I'm so glad I did that because he is just he is so good. Like, we've seen brilliance from Hillam Lukey over the years. I think he debuted in 2021, 2022. And when he's played, every game he's played, he's been heavily involved, enthusiastic. And, I spoke in the preseason about the edge forwards for the Cowboys, Hillam Lukey and Jeremiah Nanai. For me, Jeremiah Nanai is more talented every day of the week. But who are you going to put in your Origin side? The hard worker that will get the job done and show consistency, or the talented guy that will sort of play good football here and there? You put in Hillam Lukey in every single time because you know what you're going to get out of him. He's such a reliable player, and the way he can combine with Jake Clifford and Tommy Dearden, it's so good to see. It really is fantastic to see. Congratulations also to Jake Clifford. What a story he's been. He's been a bit of a journeyman. He's been at 2 clubs, but he was out of the game, in the game, Newcastle, out of the game, back to the Cowboys, and, he's really cemented that number 6 spot. So congratulations there to Jake Clifford, and congratulations to the Cowboys. Scott Drinkwater under pressure, beautiful field goal, and the Cowboys, they got the job done. They were pretty sure they were outsiders in this game, and they got it done. I think fair to say Brisbane, even with the players they had out, I think they were still expected to win this game. I really would have liked to see Ezra Mam stand up in this game. Don't think he did. With his price tag, I think he probably needed to show a little bit more. Jesse Arthurs, you knew what you were going to get out of him. He's not that superstar talent, but he did a tremendous job at fullback. Congratulations to him. Let's roll through these games. They've gone 19 minutes, and we're only into game 3. Let's smash these games. All right, the first game, Super Saturday, Sharks. Souths versus Raiders. The Raiders winning that 36 points to 34. KO Weeks won the game for Canberra here. Savelio Tamalo, for me, he's been dropped this week. I can understand why, unfortunately. I thought, to me, even though the Raiders won this game and they had to win this game to save their season pretty much, for me, Canberra, oh man, fuck. They had this game cemented, and then with 10 minutes to go, Souths find a way to somehow almost win the game. The Raiders are a bit like Manly in terms of they allow sides with big leads to come back and that their discipline is really poor. Canberra, their discipline's horrendous. They're beating themselves. Like, they won this game, yes, but they almost beat themselves as well. If you look back at the last 3 games for the Canberra Raiders, especially that game against Cronulla a couple of weeks ago at GIO Stadium, Canberra beat Cronulla. Cronulla beat Canberra, but Canberra beat themselves a lot in that game. That they were dead set. Like, the errors in that game was just woeful. In the Warriors game back in round 3, I think it was, they were in it in the first half, and then just, they had 3 wet weather games. They won the first one at Brookie Oval and Golden Point. They've got a new halves combination. Perhaps to some extent you want to be patient, but at the end of the day, they did win the minor premiership last year. I was expecting a little bit more from Canberra. I didn't have them in the 8 this year. I think I had them in ninth place, only just missing out. But no, I think they can make the 8, absolutely. I mean, I just think there's just huge signs. Like, to win that game by 2 points and allowing your opposition to win, to score 34. Like, the Rabbitohs scored 34 points and they didn't win the game. Like, it's pretty remarkable. Raiders' defense is really poor. Tamale, man, that was bad. That was a real bad game. He's been dropped. And I think it's Sebastian Chris on the wing this week, with Jed Stewart on the other wing. We've got Simi Sasangi, and I'm pretty sure, what's his name? He's been dropped. I'll get back to you. The other centre. Man, what's his name? Matthew Tomoko. He's back into the side, so he'll get his first crack at first grade this year. All right. South, congratulations to them for coming back. But at the end of the day, talk about a team with poor discipline. They've got that in spades as well. Look, it was an exciting game of football. Lots of tries scored. I think there were 12 tries scored in this game, I'm pretty sure. But the Raiders got the job done. Shout out to Joe Tarpany, what a player. Josh Papali'i, that forward pack saved the game for them. Tom Starling is turning into a real leader of this Canberra side. I saw him barking instructions in the warm-up before this game started, and they're really listening to Tom Starling. Interesting to see when Owen Paddy will come into this side. I do feel like they're just lacking spark off the bench at certain times. But congratulations to the Raiders winning that game 36-34. The next game, Sharks and the Roosters. Man, the Sharks were up 16-0 and lost this game. Man, the Cronulla Sharks, like, if they're a dead set contender this year, they're going to have to win games when they have a lead like that. The Roosters, for the first half of this game, the Roosters were pathetic. Like, it was so bad. I was watching it going, mate, the talent in this side, and they're playing like this. Like, it's almost like they had no excuse. Second half, I think they got the try just before half time. The crossfield kick from Sam Walker to Daniel Tupou. Beautiful kick. Like, that try really saved the game. I actually genuinely do. I understand the Roosters won this game by 12 points. But without that try, I don't think the Roosters win this game. I genuinely think Cronulla win it. And I think it just gave the Roosters a confidence boost of, okay, the Sharks' defense isn't good here. We can come back if we stay disciplined. That's exactly what they did. They respected the football a lot more in the second half. They backed their ability. They had confidence, and they played with a style of football which was a free-roaming, sort of quick touch football style of football, which was really rattling the big boppers such as Adam Fanua-Blake and Toby Rudolph. And Blake Brayley at times looked a little bit tired, I've got to say. As impressive as Blake Brayley is as a player, especially over the last 12 months, he's just grown into an absolute leader and a real contender to be that New South Wales number 9. But for me, Blake Brayley at times looked gassed, like they really targeted the Sharks middles. Marky Mark Nawanga Netawase, for me, man, he's rock solid diamonds, hey. He worries you when you tip the Roosters. Like, he could throw the best pass in the world, right? He could throw a gridiron pass that would go 40 metres. Like, he's that good. But also that pass could be intercepted and led in a try to the opposition. You don't know what you're going to get from Mark. For me, congratulations to the Roosters. They found a way, and they had to find a way in this game. I thought Reece Robson, his defense was really strong. He's such a good defender from dummy half. He just doesn't miss a tackle. I thought he was really good in this game. Cherry Evans, I thought he was better in this game. He's had a couple of good games and a couple of quiet games. But I thought, he stood up when they needed to have someone stand up. He scored that try, but when the Roosters made it level again with the with the Sharks, he was the one barking instructions, not Tedesco. It was Daly Cherry Evans. So, I know Tedesco's the captain. He's got the C next to his name, but I've got no doubt that the side look at both James Tedesco and Daly Cherry Evans as the skippers of this side. And I think I genuinely think you've got to give credit to Daly Cherry Evans here. He delivered. Sam Walker was brilliant this game. I think that was the best game he's had in over a year, to be honest. I thought genuinely he was outstanding. His kicking game, his short kicking game was fantastic. The way in which he's able to get players involved around him, his combination there with Angus Crichton's fantastic, and he can roam the other side of the field and find Siwa Wong dropping underneath him, and he's just such a dangerous player. He's so unpredictable, and when I watch Sam Walker, he really reminds me of an Alfie Langer. He really does. Like, I only saw the back end of Alfie Langer's career when I was a kid, but I still remember being 5, 6, 7 years old, just not knowing what Alfie was going to do. And I don't think he knew what he was going to do at some points. And I think that's the danger of Sam Walker, is how's the opposition meant to guess what he's going to do if genuinely I don't think he knows what he's going to do. So I think he's a really good halfback. I think the Roosters, congratulations to them. I think the Roosters will go on a bit of a roll now. They started the season quite slow, I think it's fair to say, but I think we'll see the Roosters really be one of those contenders by the end of the year. They'll start to pick up now. I think they'll get a big win this weekend, and then they'll start to really go hard, I reckon, leading into that Origin period. The next game, final game of Super Saturday, was the Storm and the Warriors. The Warriors winning this game 38 points to 14. Look, congratulations to the Wars. This was, if you're talking about Warriors history, since 1995, this for me would be in their top 10 games, possibly top 5. I genuinely believe this was one of their best games the club has ever played since 1995. They weren't going to be bullied. And I saw an interview with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck before the game, and I think he was talking to Jared Waerea-Hargreaves. And I think they're good mates from playing, with the Kiwis back in World Cups and whatnot. And Tuivasa-Sheck was not wanting a bar of the jokes. Like, he was just in a mode. He was in a zone. He was so switched on. He was dead set, fucking phenomenal in this game. And I think it's fair to say, when Roger Tuivasa-Sheck came back to the NRL in season 2024, the last 2 years, he's been okay. Like, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been the Roger that we've known of beforehand, possibly because he has been playing on the centre and the wing and over these last couple of years. So we haven't seen the ball in his hand as much as previous years for the Warriors. But for me, he was not going to be bullied. When, like, that try on the eastern side of the ground, and he gets up and he goes, no, Melbourne, you aren't going to do this to us today. We're sick of it. Every time they go down there, the Storm always beat the Warriors. And I think the last time the Warriors beat Melbourne was 2015. Sean Johnson carved them up with Simon Mannering, and Nathan Friend, I think, was playing hooker for the Warriors back then. You've got to give credit to the Warriors in this game. James Fisher-Harris, Wade Egan. I get he's injury prone, he gets concussions, whatnot, but his creativity out of dummy half, his passing selection, the way in which he can engage his front rowers close to the line and hitting the holes near the try line. You've probably got 2 or 3 really creative hookers in the competition. You've got momentum hookers, you've got speed out of the ruck with players like Damien Cook, Jacob Little, all these kind of players, but the creativity from the likes of Reid Marnie, Api Coruscant, and Wade Egan is so underrated. It is so important to have a creative dummy half. And if you're a front rower such as James Fisher-Harris, you are thanking the Lord that you have a creative hooker like Wade Egan in your side. He knows when to pass it to his halfback, and he knows when to pass it to his front rower. And I think that's what you're seeing with the likes of an inexperienced player like Talon De Silva at the Parramatta Eels. He's still working out whether to back himself or to listen to your halfback, he's still working out who to pass it to and when to pass it to that certain player in a certain position. He's still working that out. Wade Egan, Reid Marnie, Api Coruscant, these creative dummy halves have it in spades. Blake Brayley for me is a creative dummy half. And I think it's only fair to say he's really gotten to that level of being like Blake Brayley for me is the best dummy half in the game as it stands. I genuinely believe that. He's got speed out of the ruck. His defense is brilliant, but also he has evolved his game. In the last 12 months, he's also been a really creative player from dummy half. And I think he's really gone another level. For me personally, I think, I think the Warriors were fantastic. The Melbourne Storm, look, I'm against the majority. I think they'll be back. I think they're just having a rough patch. I remember back in 2012, they lost 5 games in a row. They ended up winning the comp. They'll work it out. They'll be fine. Personally, I actually think they beat Canberra this week. They will work it out, the Storm. Sean Blaw's named on the reserves this week. That may indicate that, he'll come in, probably start on the edge, possibly. Joe Chan was disappointing. Suafalago is doing what he can. Will Warbrick was pretty disappointing in this game. They're just sort of scratching their heads going, what the fuck is going on? This is not the Melbourne Storm. Cameron Munster, so much frustration. They'll be back, but they need some troops back. I had them winning the comp, and here's a prediction that I know I'm wrong about. I don't think... I'm going to stay with it because I don't like changing my predictions, but, that's looking very, very wrong at the moment as we speak. The Warriors, congratulations to them. That's another prediction I got wrong. I didn't think the Warriors will make the 8, and the way they're playing at the moment, how will they not be in the finals for 2 years in a row? Fantastic to see. The final game of the round was between the Eels and the Gold Coast Titans. The second final game of the round. We also got the Knights and Tigers. Parramatta and the Titans. Titans winning this game 52 points to 10. Parramatta Eels, I genuinely feel sorry for Parramatta here. They've had Bailey Simonson, who's been injured. That was an accident, but he's out for the year. And then you've got Jermaine Hopgood. He's out for the year with I think it was Ryan Couchman who did that hip drop tackle on Hopgood. So I genuinely believe that especially so early on in the season, if players get injured for foul play, there should be salary cap relief or compensation for the club. Like Jermaine Hopgood is such a huge loss for Parramatta. I'm surprised it's not getting spoken enough. I just heard in the media, Jermaine Hopgood's out for the year. That's not good. No, it's actually disastrous. He's such a good player. He's their glue in defence. He's such a great defender. The way in which he offloads, and now we see Dylan Walker starting at lock. And for Parramatta, Dylan Walker is so much better coming on after 20, 25 minutes, trying to change the momentum or working with the momentum. And he's starting at lock. So at 25, 30 minutes, he's pretty gassed through the game. And you're missing that enthusiasm, that energy, and that footy IQ off the bench in Dylan Walker. For me, Parramatta, I think they're fucked. I mentioned the Dragons are fucked, but I think Parramatta are genuinely fucked here. Isaiah Iongi gone for another 2 months. Jonah Pezzett didn't play. I think they have lost players early in the year, and I think unfortunately, if they were able to keep their players on, there was definitely a chance of making the finals. But I think it's only going to get from bad to worse for Parramatta, as much as I hate to say it. I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't turn up. That was their biggest loss at home since 1995. So that's bad. And they didn't turn up. We've seen depleted Parramatta sides turn up before. They didn't play for the jersey. They were disappointing. I'm not trying to find excuses for them, but at the same time, it kind of is an excuse in a way. You know what I mean? They are big losses, without a doubt. The Gold Coast Titans, credit to them. They can do this. We know that they can do this. I think they beat the Warriors by 52 points to nil or something like that at the Gold Coast back in 2024. They have this in them, right? And congratulations to them. But I think what the fans now deserve since 2007 or 2010 when they made a prelim, the fans are happy to see this, but I think what the fans deserve now is to see this consistency. It's all good to win 52-10 here and there, but now you've got to show that you can play like this consistently. They don't need to win 52-10. They can win 12-10, but they need to win consistently now. Like, that's a statement game. Congratulations to them. Now they need to back it up this week. They need to back it up every week from here. And they need to say to the fans and to the Titans fans that I genuinely believe need success, just like the Tigers fans do. This is a statement game, but make it count for something, yeah? Don't just think, oh, yeah, we scored 52-10 and we'll see how we go next week. No. Under Josh Hannay, I think you'll start to see a bit of consistency kick in. For me, Cooper Bye was outstanding in this game when he came on. He was absolutely fantastic. The Gold Coast Titans for me, I'm not going to be fooled. I know that's harsh, but like, it's one game where they've won this big. They need to now win games consistently, because I'm a bit over it as a rugby league fan, seeing this occasional scoreline and thinking, fuck, how good are they going? And then being consistently disappointed the following week or the following few weeks after that. We need to see this side come together, right, and believe that they can make finals. And I want them to respond as though they lost by 50 points. Like, that's how the Titans need to play every week. It was an amazing win, one of the best wins in the club's history. And I understand I'm sounding very harsh, but at the end of the day, they need to win bigger and not bigger, sorry, but they need to win more consistently in the NRL. I think the fans are happy to see a scoreline like that, obviously, but at the end of the day, they would much rather win 12-10 every week or 20-18 every week. The Titans will have blowout scores like this with the speed they've got in there. AJ Brimson. I thought Lockie Ilias was really impressive at 5'8" in this game. Jaden Campbell really owning that number 7 position as well. Curtis Morin started at front row. He was outstanding in this game. I think Sammy Verrills has been really impressive as well at dummy half the last couple of weeks. The most impressive thing about this game for the Gold Coast Titans was their defence. They trusted one another in defence, and their goal line defence was outstanding, and they absolutely rattled the big boppers for the Parramatta Eels, such as Junior Paulo and Riley Smith. Riley Smith isn't a big bopper, but, they had a point to prove. Like, they really rattled the middles there for Parramatta. Congratulations to the Titans, as I mentioned, winning that game 52-10. The final game of the round, the West Tigers 42-22 over the Newcastle Knights. The Knights, for me, disappointing. I don't think they were overly too bad. I know they had some issues in defence on that left edge with Wilson DeCourcy, I think you pronounce it, sorry. And then you've also got Greg Marzhew. I tipped the Tigers in this game, but I only really, because they've been so good and predictable. Like, they're showing consistency. And I think when Bradman Best got ruled out, I think that was a big out for Newcastle. Now they've got injuries to Tyson Frizzell and Dylan Lucas, who's a huge loss. So, they shifted Dylan Lucas to the centres, and I thought that Jock Madden was outstanding. The Tigers were fantastic. Like, if you're a Knights fan, you probably don't read too much into it. They just, they've had a great start to the year, but now they need to start finding consistency again. I think, unfortunately for Newcastle, their season will start to fade away now, unfortunately. I don't want to touch too much on Newcastle because they lost and they've started the season well, so I don't want to sound too harsh towards them. Fletcher Hunt is such a good player. Fletcher Sharp was good, really good. But yeah, I just think they just, at the end of the day, they're missing. Beg your pardon. They're missing Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown. And even though they've won games without those two players, at the end of the day, it will hurt them to an extent through the season until those two players get back, which shouldn't be overly too much longer, I'd say, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. For the West Tigers, Api Coruscant has to be in the top 3 best buys that this club has ever had. He came to the side after the 2022 grand final win against Parramatta for Penrith. He was then a back-to-back premiership winning hooker. Of course, he won a premiership back with South Sydney back in 2014. For me, he is just so good. Api Coruscant, like that pass from dummy half, 2 meters away from the try line, finding Terrell May. Oh man, that was so good. That was outstanding to see. Fantastic. Dream Buller. He's just so creamy. He's like, no, I'm only joking. Gus Gould describing him. Don't know about that. If I'm a Tigers fan, I'm dirty at that. Gus, don't comment on any Tigers players after last year. Thank you very much. Stay away from them, Phil. I know you're listening. No. But no, hey, congratulations to the Tigers. They were outstanding in this game. I thought, man, just like Terrell May, man, he is such a good player. Fanua Pole, Samuel Afinu, like Alex Twell, I mentioned on the podcast last week doing the review show. For me, he's been the Tigers' best player in the opening 6 weeks of the competition, and I stand by that. He was once again absolutely fantastic in this game. Congratulations to the West Tigers, winning that game 42 points to 22. That is the Rugby League review show for this week for round 6. You are listening to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. If you haven't done so already, please follow me on Spotify or subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is Rugby League Forecast podcast. My name is Connor Moran, and if you haven't done so already, please leave a comment. Whether you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment. If you agree with anything, get yourselves involved in this little community I'm creating here, the Rugby League Forecast podcast, or leave a comment on YouTube as well. Hammer me if you want in the comments. If you totally disagree with me, if you think I'm too harsh on certain teams or certain players, let me know. I try and stay as positive as I can. Like at the end of the day, I never played NRL, never was a great player of rugby league. I'm just a fan that loves the game, but I also believe that fans are entitled, especially passionate fans, are entitled to have strong opinions about the game they love, because they're connected to it and it's a big part of their lives. So feel free to leave any comments, disagreements, agreements in the comments. Thank you for listening to the Rugby League Forecast podcast review show.